Look Outreach is underwritten by the generous support of Munter Enterprises. Family owned and operated since 1972, integrity is important, as our family name is on every project. Our word is our bond. Munter Enterprises. Just build it.
Welcome back, everyone. Well, if you saw part one of my interview with my guest, then you know why I told you in the beginning of that interview, just stay put. You're going to want to hear this, and you're going to want to act on this. Joining me for part two is John Coppola. John is Executive Director, New York State Association of Alcoholism and Substance Abuse Providers. Welcome back, John.
Happy to be here.
And there was so much information in part one, but I want to cycle back on one thing. You know, the H word, heroin. If you're my generation or whatever, and you want to dabble with weed or whatever it was, there was no question at all. You never went anywhere near heroin. And to hear John describe a lot of the opioid prescriptions today as having basically one molecule difference between that pill and heroin really classifies them as heroin pills. And when you think about that, it leads me into really wanting to talk to you about how important it is that people educate themselves, right?
Absolutely.
And there are a number of ways to educate yourself. I like starting with the fact that this is a heroin pill. This is addiction. This is something that once you start down this path, it is incredibly difficult to break free, and it can kill you, right? So let's talk about education. Where do you start?
Well, I think with your physician right out of the bat, when your physician's going to be prescribing something, ask your physician, you know, what is this medication and how will it affect me? Is it has any potential for abuse, or is there any potential for addiction, having a dependence on it? I would also do the same thing with the pharmacist. When you go to pick up the medication, the pharmacist went to school to learn about the medication and can tell you almost anything about it. So always ask yourself and ask the pharmacist questions and educate yourself. And then when you go home, when you have the medication and you take it, then it'd be really want to be educated about how do I dispense with this when I'm finished with it. If I don't use all of the pills, what do I do with them? Where do I bring them? So there are these drug disposal sites. I would call the local police department to find out, or the local pharmacy, and find out what can I do with the medication I don't need. Because the last thing you want to do is have medication sitting in the medicine cabinet that somebody can come in and just use in a way that wasn't intended.
Sure. Cycle back on 2 points here. One is that for all the skills that a doctor has, understanding the nature of so many of these different pills and medicines is not really their area of expertise. A pharmacist is really the person.
Absolutely.
Right? The reason they go to pharmaceutical colleges and whatever is to understand exactly the kinds of questions that people are going to ask them about the specifics of those medications. And then the other thing I wanted to cycle back is John had mentioned there was a certain percentage research that they had fielded which said that a lot of younger people especially will become addicted because they raid the medicine cabinet.
Absolutely.
And they don't know what the medicines are, but they heard the name or something, they try it, and before you know it, we're in trouble.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep, that's exactly right.
Let's go to prevention. Again, part of prevention is being educated about it and whatever. But what do you do if you suspect that, there's a member of your family? What do you do if, you're ready to face the fact that I think I'm heading down the wrong path here? What can you do to prevent taking that next step?
Well, I think as soon as somebody has a concern about somebody's drug or alcohol use and the possibility that maybe there's an addiction or there's a problem, immediately go to an expert for help. The New York State Office of Alcoholism and Substance Abuse Providers has a hotline. There are programs in communities across New York State which offer services, treatment and prevention services. So I think that generally I would ask an expert. I would look for an expert in my community. I would tell them about the circumstances and hopefully find out what resources are available right now so that whatever's going on does not escalate into something more serious.
Right, and you know what? You've heard the phrase, you can't begin until you're ready to start. I interview a lot of sheriffs, a lot of police departments about this. Call the police department, call the sheriff's department. They'll speak to you anonymously. They can give you the information so that you could actually make that first step. You hear a lot of cliches, right? Oh, the first step is the hardest. Make that first step, and then then you're on the road to recovery.
Absolutely.
Nothing too. All right. So suppose you're not facing this problem. How about the resources matching the magnitude of the crisis?
Absolutely.
Call your congressman, call your representatives, call your assembly people. This is not an epidemic, it's a pandemic.
That's right.
And that this will continue to grow out of control until it becomes a priority. And not necessarily a priority because the government says they're throwing $100 million at it, but you find out that a portion of that $100 million is going someplace else, has nothing to do with the specific recovery programs necessary to stop this. But, it's politics, house of cards, right?
Right, and again, they say all politics are local. So,
Yeah, that's
I would
right.
say every one of your viewers should know what resources are in the community, and every one of your viewers should talk to their senator and assembly person and say, we need more resources in this community because the number of overdose deaths is going up, not down.
Yes, right, and going up, not like this, but going up like this. Well, John, thank you very much for coming in. You're welcome to come back anytime. Talk
Be happy
about
to.
this subject. Give us updates, give our viewers updates, and see if we can play a small role here in just trying to help get the awareness out for this. Because if we don't, I don't understand where we're headed with this.
Thank you for
I
bringing
just don't.
attention to this issue. It's really important.
Oh, you're welcome, John. Okay, everybody. I hope you listened to that. If you missed part 1, you can find part 1 on our website. If you want to see this interview again, you can go to our website and get the information that you need.